The Valorian ships drifted through space like broken glass catching starlight. Their hulls were cracked and their engines barely worked. Inside those dying vessels, thousands of aliens waited for someone to care about them. No one did. Kale stood at the observation window of the lead ship and watched the massive station ahead. The Galactic Council's headquarters looked like a silver wheel spinning slowly in the darkness. He had been to 17 worlds before this. 17 times he had begged for help. 17 times they had said no. His skin was clear like crystal and blue light pulsed through his veins with each heartbeat. That light was growing dimmer each day. All Valorians needed special minerals to survive and their supplies were almost gone. 3 more had died yesterday. 2 the day before that. Time was running out. Elder Kale, a young voice said behind him. It was Lisa, one of the few children left alive. Her light flickered weakly. Will they help us this time? Kale turned and tried to smile. He did not want to lie to her, but he also did not want to take away her hope. We will see, little one. The humans are part of this council. I have heard they are different from the others. Inside the council chamber, representatives from 45 different species sat in a great circle. Each one looked different. Some had fur, some had scales. Some were just clouds of gas inside special suits. But they all had one thing in common. They did not want the Valorians. A tall alien with 6 arms stood up. His voice was cold and formal. We have reviewed the Valorian situation. Our decision remains the same. They require resources we cannot spare. Their biology is unstable. They carry risks we do not understand. This council votes to deny asylum. Kel's translator device crackled in his ear. He had expected this, but hearing it still hurt. Please, he said, his voice breaking. We are not asking for much. Just a place to live. Just a chance to survive. Our world is gone. Our people are dying. We have nowhere else to go. Another alien spoke up, this one covered in sharp quills. Your mineral requirements are too specific. Your appearance disturbs many species. Integration would be impossible. We suggest you find an uninhabited moon somewhere and settle there. We have tried that, Kyle said. Such places do not have the minerals we need. Without them, we will all be dead in 3 months. The council chamber filled with uncomfortable silence. No one wanted to say what they were all thinking. They did not care if the Valorians died. In the observation deck above the chamber, Dr. Una Park watched through the glass. She was a human scientist who studied alien life. Her hands were pressed against the glass so hard her knuckles turned white. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. They are just going to let them die, she whispered to herself. The human ambassador to the council sat next to her. He was an old man who had seen too many of these meetings. There is nothing we can do, Dr. Park. Earth is just 1 vote out of 45. We do not have enough power to change this. Una shook her head. That is not good enough. Those are people down there, living, breathing, thinking people. They have children. They have families. They have a right to exist. The galaxy does not work on rights, the ambassador said sadly. It works on politics and fear and self-interest. Below the vote was called. The results appeared on a massive screen. 43 species voted no. 1 small species that no one had ever heard of voted yes. And Earth voted yes 43-2. The Valorians were rejected. Kale felt something inside him break. He bowed his head and turned to leave. There was nothing more he could do. He had failed his people. Soon they would all be gone, and the galaxy would forget they ever existed. But as he walked toward the exit, someone called out to him. Wait! He turned and saw a human woman running toward him. She had dark hair pulled back in a simple tie, and her eyes were bright with determination. Behind her ran a human man in a military uniform, his face set in a serious expression. I am Dr. Una Park, the woman said, slightly out of breath. This is Captain Jihu Nam. We need to talk to you. Kyle looked at them with tired eyes. Your council has spoken. There is nothing left to say. That was the council's decision, Jihu said. Not Earth's, not ours. Una pulled out a small device and showed Kale a star map. How many ships do you have? How many people? 12 ships, Kale said slowly. 4,216 individuals. Why does it matter? Jihu and Una looked at each other. Something passed between them, some silent understanding. Then Jihu nodded. Because, Una said, we are going to take you to Earth. Kale stared at them. He must have misunderstood. Your council just voted. The council does not speak for all of humanity. Jihu interrupted. They speak for Earth's government in galactic politics. But we are humans before we are politicians, and we do not abandon people who need help. You will face consequences, Kyle said. The council does not like being disobeyed. Let them be angry, Yuna said. You need help now. We can argue about politics later. Can your ships make a jump to human space? Barely, Kyle admitted. But you do not understand what you are offering. We need special minerals. We look strange to most species. Integration will be difficult. We may be more trouble than we are worth. Jihu put a hand on Kale's shoulder. The touch was gentle and warm. Every species is trouble in its own way. Humans included. That does not mean you deserve to die. Gather your fleet. We will escort you. My ship, the Soul's Pride, is docked at the station. Jihu continued. I will assemble my crew. We leave in 6 hours. Kale felt something he had not felt in months. Hope. It was small and fragile, but it was there. Why, he asked. Why would you risk so much for strangers? Yuna smiled. Because someone has to. Because it is the right thing to do. And because humans know what it is like to be rejected and judged. We have done it to each other for thousands of years. We finally learned better. Maybe we can teach the rest of the galaxy. In the council chamber behind them, alarms began to sound. Security had noticed the humans talking to the Valorian elder. Voices called out in different languages, demanding they stop. Jihu grinned. Time to go. Can you get your fleet ready? Kale straightened up. His light pulsed a little brighter. Yes, we can be ready. Then let us get you home, Yuna said. As they rushed through the corridors, dodging confused aliens and shouting security officers, Kale realized something. For the first time since his world had burned, someone had called somewhere home for his people. Not a refugee camp, not a containment zone. Home. The galaxy had rejected them. But these humans, these strange, stubborn humans, were offering something no one else had. A chance. The Soul's Pride cut through space with 3 other human ships following close behind. Around them, the 12 Valorian vessels struggled to keep pace. Their engines sputtered and sparked, barely holding together. Captain Jihu stood on the bridge, watching the readings with growing concern. How long until they reach Earth? He asked. His navigator checked the screens. At this speed, 18 days. But sir, the Valorian ships might not last that long. 2 of them are showing critical engine failure. Jihu rubbed his tired eyes. They had been running for 3 days straight, dodging council enforcement ships and trying to keep the fragile fleet together. Get me Chief Engineer Choi. A moment later, Hana Choi appeared on the communication screen. Her hair was messy and her face was covered in grease. She had not slept since they left the council station. Captain, please tell me you have good news because I do not. How bad is it? Jihu asked. Bad, Hana said flatly. The Valorians are running on fumes. Their ships were not meant for long-range travel in this condition. But that is not our biggest problem. What is? The Valorians themselves. Dr. Park and I did some tests. They are dying faster than we thought. Their mineral deficiency is getting worse. We have maybe 10 days before we start losing people in large numbers. Jihu felt his stomach drop. 10 days. They needed 18 to reach Earth. Can we synthesize the minerals they need? Hana was quiet for a moment. Maybe. I would need to analyze their biology more. I would need equipment I do not have on this ship. And I would need time we do not have. Do it anyway, Jihu ordered. Use whatever resources you need. Pull crew from other departments if you have to. Just figure it out. Down in the medical bay, Dr. Yuna Park worked alongside a Valorian named Lissa. The young alien moved slowly now, her light barely visible under her translucent skin, but she was helping Yuna understand Valorian biology. These veins, Lissa explained, tracing the dim blue lines on her arm. They carry our energy. The minerals from our food charge them like batteries. Without the right minerals, we fade. Yuna made notes on her tablet. What happens when the charge runs out? First, we get weak. Then we cannot think clearly. Then our organs stop working. Lissa said it simply, like she was describing the weather. I watched my father fade last month. It took 3 days from start to finish. Yuna set down her tablet and took Lissa's hand. I am so sorry. Do not be sorry, Lissa said. Be successful. Find a way to help us. That is better than sorry. 4 days into the journey, Hana made a breakthrough. She burst into the medical bay, waving a small vial of glowing blue liquid. I think I have it. Yuna jumped up. The mineral compound? A temporary version, yes. It is not perfect. It will only keep them stable, not cure them, but it should buy us time to reach Earth. Hana handed the vial to Yuna. Try it on one of the patients. They chose an elderly Valorian who was fading fast. Yuna carefully injected the compound into his arm. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the blue light in his veins began to glow brighter. His eyes opened. It works, Yuna breathed. Hana, you brilliant, wonderful genius. It works. By the end of the day, every Valorian in the fleet had received the temporary treatment. The change was dramatic. People who had been lying in sickbeds were standing up. Children who had stopped playing were laughing again. The light returned to their ships. But the good news did not last long. On day 7, the Soul's Pride sensors detected 6 Council enforcement vessels on an intercept course. They were fast, heavily armed, and they were not planning to talk. Jihu called an emergency meeting with his officers and the Valorian elders, including Kale. They will catch us in 4 hours, he said. We are not a military fleet. We cannot fight them. Then we surrender, one of his officers suggested. Maybe they will just escort us back and we can try again later. No, Kyle said firmly. If we go back, they will separate us. They will scatter my people across detention facilities. We will never get another chance. We must keep going. A new voice joined the meeting. It came from one of the other human ships. This is Taiyang Kang. I am a diplomat, not a soldier, but I think I have an idea. Everyone turned to listen. Taiyang's face appeared on the screen. He had a gentle smile that somehow made people trust him. I have been working on something. I have contacts in the council, species who voted no but felt bad about it. I have been sending them messages showing them what we are doing, telling the Valorian story. How does that help us right now? Jihu asked. Because 3 of those species have ships in this sector, and I just convinced them to run interference for us. Taeyang's smile grew wider. They will not fight the enforcement fleet, but they will delay them. Create diplomatic incidents, file complaints, demand inspections. Bureaucracy can be a beautiful weapon. Jihu laughed despite the tension. You magnificent troublemaker. Will it work? For maybe 12 hours. Then you need a better plan. The better plan came from Hana. There is an asteroid field 30 million kilometers ahead. It is dense, difficult to navigate. The big enforcement ships cannot follow us through. But our smaller vessels can. The Valorian ships are barely holding together, another officer pointed out. Can they handle an asteroid field? Kyle stepped forward. We can if you guide us. My people were miners before our world died. We know asteroids. We know how to move through them. Give us the path and we will follow. The next hours were the most terrifying of the journey. The fleet dove into the asteroid field with council ships closing in behind them. Rocks the size of buildings tumbled through space all around them. One wrong move would mean instant death. Jihu piloted the Soul's Pride personally, weaving between asteroids with the Valorian ships following in his wake. Behind them, the larger council vessels tried to follow but had to slow down. One of them scraped against an asteroid and spun away, trailing debris. They are falling back, the navigator reported. Do not celebrate yet, Jihu said. We still have to get out of this field alive. It took 8 hours to cross the asteroid field. When they finally emerged on the other side, 3 Valorian ships had damage and 1 human ship had lost an engine. But they were alive and the council ships were far behind. That night, Jihu found Yuna in the observation lounge. She was staring out at the stars, a cup of cold coffee in her hands. Can you believe we just did that? She asked. Not really, Jihu admitted. He stood next to her. Do you think we made the right choice? Earth is going to face consequences for this. Trade sanctions, diplomatic isolation, maybe worse. Yuna looked at him. Do you regret it? Jihu thought about Lisa, who was alive because of Hana's medicine. He thought about Kale, who had hope in his eyes for the first time in months. He thought about all the Valorians who had a chance now. No, he said, I do not regret it at all. Good, Yuna said, because we still have 10 days until we reach Earth, and something tells me the hardest part is still ahead. She was right. Far behind them, the council was calling an emergency session. Earth's actions had not gone unnoticed. Decisions were being made, punishments were being planned. But on the Soul's Pride, Valorian children played in the corridors with human crew members. Lysa taught a young human engineer how to read Valorian star charts. Kale and Jihu shared stories about their homeworlds. For the first time in a long time, the Valorians were not just surviving. They were living. And the humans who helped them were learning what it meant to stand up for something bigger than politics or fear. The journey was not over. Earth still waited ahead, and with it a choice that would change everything. But for now, in the quiet darkness between the stars, two species found common ground. Hope, it turned out, was contagious. The news reached Earth 3 days before the fleet arrived. Human ships steal alien refugees, read one headline. Earth defies Galactic Council, read another. Within hours, the entire planet was talking about it. Ambassador Doyen Lee sat in his office at the United Earth Government headquarters and watched the news coverage with a growing headache. His phone had not stopped ringing. Every government official, every news agency, every concerned citizen wanted answers. A message appeared on his screen. It was from the Galactic Council, and it was not friendly. Earth will face immediate sanctions. All trade routes closed. All diplomatic relations suspended. You have 72 hours to return the Valorian refugees or face permanent expulsion from the Council. Doyen closed his eyes and took a deep breath. This was going to be bad. Outside his window, protests had already begun. Some people held signs saying, "Welcome the Valorians," and "Humanity first means humanity for all." Other people held signs saying, "Earth first, and we cannot afford this." The planet was dividing. Before his eyes. In a small town in Australia, Dr. Erin Song was not watching the news. She was underground in a mine shaft, staring at rock samples under a bright light. Her hands trembled as she ran another test. Then another. Then another. "Please be right," she whispered to herself. "Please, please be right." She had spent the last 2 days analyzing mineral surveys from around the world. She had looked at old data that no one cared about anymore. She had searched for something specific, something the Valorians needed to survive, and she had found it. Her phone rang. It was Ambassador Doyen. "Dr. Song, do you have good news for me? Because I could really use some good news right now." "I have great news," Erin said, her voice shaking with excitement. "The minerals the Valorians need, the ones that everyone said were rare and impossible to find, they are here. On Earth. We have huge deposits in Siberia and Australia, enough to support thousands of Valorians for hundreds of years." There was silence on the other end. Then Doyen laughed. It was not a happy laugh, but a surprised, disbelieving laugh. "Are you absolutely certain?" "I have run the test 12 times. I am certain. We can help them." "We can actually help them." Doyen leaned back in his chair. "Dr. Song, you might have just saved us all. Send me everything you have. I need to make some calls." Across the city, Min Ho-yoon was working in a warehouse that had been converted into a coordination center. He was a refugee coordinator, someone who had spent years helping people displaced by natural disasters. Now he had a bigger job. His team had maps spread across tables showing potential settlement zones for the Valorians. They had supply lists, medical equipment requests, housing plans. The work was overwhelming, but Minho had learned long ago that helping people was always overwhelming. "You did it anyway. How many volunteers do we have?" he asked his assistant. 47,000 and counting, she replied. "People from every country. They are offering homes, supplies, expertise. Everyone wants to help," Minho smiled. This was humanity at its best. Not perfect, not without fear or doubt, but willing to try. The Earth government called an emergency global referendum. Every citizen would vote on a simple question. Should Earth provide asylum to the Valorian refugees? The debate was fierce. Politicians argued on television. Families argued at dinner tables. Friends argued in coffee shops. "We barely take care of our own people," some said. "How can we take care of aliens?" "They are dying," others replied. "We have what they need. How can we not help? The Council will destroy our economy. We will be isolated from the galaxy. Then the galaxy is wrong, and we should not be part of it." Ambassador Doyen was invited to speak before the Global Assembly. Billions of people watched as he walked to the podium. His hands gripped the sides of the wooden stand, and he looked directly into the cameras. "I have served Earth and galactic politics for 15 years, he began. "I have made compromises. I have accepted things I did not agree with because that was how the game was played. I have been practical and careful and diplomatic." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But there are times when being practical means being cruel. There are times when being careful means being cowardly. This is one of those times." The assembly was completely silent. The Valorians are people, not resources to be managed, not problems to be solved. People. They have children who laugh. They have elders who tell stories. They have dreams and fears and hopes just like us. Doyen's voice grew stronger. Yes, the council is threatening us. Yes, we will face hardship. Yes, this decision will cost us. But what does it cost us if we say no? What do we lose if we turn away people in desperate need, just because it is convenient? He leaned forward. Humans were once divided by borders and beliefs. We fought wars over religion and race and resources. We judged each other by the color of our skin, the place we were born, the gods we worshipped. We were cruel to each other for thousands of years. But we learned, slowly, painfully, we learned that compassion makes us stronger, not weaker. We learned that helping others does not diminish us. It elevates us. We learned that the measure of a civilization is not its weapons or its wealth, but how it treats those who have nothing. Doyen straightened up. The Valorians have nothing. They are asking us for the most basic thing any living being can ask for, a chance to survive. If we say no to that, if we abandon them to satisfy political convenience, then we have learned nothing. We are still those same scared, selfish people we used to be. His final words rang out across the assembly. We are better than that. We must be better than that. I vote yes. The vote was held the next day. The results came in region by region, country by country. It took hours to count them all. 67% voted yes. Earth would welcome the Valorians. When the Soul's Pride entered Earth's orbit, they were met by hundreds of ships. For a moment, Jihu's heart sank. Had Earth sent a military force to turn them away? Then he looked closer. The ships were not military vessels. They were cargo ships and passenger ships and private yachts. They had painted messages on their hulls. Welcome home, and you are safe now, and humanity welcomes you. Kale stood next to Jihu on the bridge, staring at the sight. Tears ran down his translucent face, glowing blue as they fell. I do not understand, he whispered. We are strangers. We are nothing to them. You are not nothing, Yuna said from behind them. You are people who need help. That is enough. The Valorian ships landed in designated zones across Earth. In Siberia, where the snow stretched forever and the minerals ran deep underground. In Australia, where the sun was warm and the deserts held ancient riches. In places that had been prepared with care and hope. At each landing site, humans waited. They held signs and banners. They had food and medicine ready. Children waved excitedly at the strange, glowing aliens emerging from the ships. Lissa stepped off her ship and felt Earth's gravity for the first time. It was slightly lighter than she was used to. She took a deep breath of Earth's air and smiled. Around her, humans approached carefully, offering welcome and help. An elderly woman handed her a flower. Welcome to Earth, dear, she said in a gentle voice. Lissa took the flower and held it carefully. It was yellow and soft and smelled sweet. She had never seen anything like it. Thank you, she said, her voice catching. Thank you so much. That night, in the temporary housing that had been set up, Kale gathered the Valorian elders. They sat in a circle, their light mingling together in the darkness. What do we do now? One of them asked. Kyle thought about everything that had happened. He thought about the council's rejection and the humans' defiance. He thought about Jihu risking his career and Yuna refusing to give up. He thought about a planet of strangers voting to help people they had never met. Now, he said slowly, we live. We rebuild. We become part of this world that welcomed us, and we make sure we are worth the risk these humans took. Outside, Earth continued to turn. The council's sanctions were already in effect. Trade routes were closed. Diplomatic channels were silent. Earth was alone in the galaxy, cut off from the larger community. But inside the temporary camps, Valorian children played with human children, laughing in the universal language of joy. Engineers from both species studied the mineral deposits together. Teachers began planning classes where Valorians and humans would learn from each other. Ambassador Doyen received another message from the council. It was full of threats and warnings. He read it once, then deleted it. Let them be angry, he thought. Let them threaten. Earth had made its choice. Not the easy choice, not the profitable choice, but the right choice. And sometimes that was all that mattered. 6 months had passed since the Valorians arrived on Earth. The settlement zones had become small towns, then growing communities. The initial chaos had given way to routine, and routine had given way to something that looked like normalcy. Yunko stood in front of a massive holographic display, rotating a three-dimensional building design with his hands. Next to him, a Valorian engineer named Nessa studied the same design, her crystalline fingers adjusting details with precise movements. "If we use your crystalline support structures here," Hyun said, pointing to the foundation, "we can reduce the building's weight by 40%. And if we incorporate your heat distribution systems," Nessa added, "we can maintain perfect temperature without external power." Her light pulsed with excitement. This could work. This could actually work. They were designing New Aurora, the first city built specifically for both humans and Valorians to live together. It would combine human architecture with Valorian technology, creating something neither species could have made alone. Hyun smiled. 6 months ago, I was designing apartment buildings. Now I am designing the future. 6 months ago, I was dying in a broken ship, Nessa said quietly. Now I am building a home. Life is strange. In a laboratory across the city, Valorian crystalline technology was being adapted for human use. The crystals could store enormous amounts of energy and release it slowly, perfectly with no waste. Human scientists worked alongside Valorian engineers, learning how to grow the crystals and program them. "This will revolutionize our energy systems," one researcher said, watching a crystal glow with stored solar power. "No more fossil fuels, no more nuclear waste, just clean, endless energy." But not everyone was happy about the integration. The Council's sanctions were hurting. Earth's economy had taken a serious hit. Trade with alien worlds had stopped completely. Some medicines were running out. Some rare materials were becoming impossible to find. People were starting to ask if helping the Valorians was worth the cost. In a small security office, Minji Bae reviewed surveillance footage from one of the mineral processing plants. She was a security officer assigned to protect the Valorian settlements. It was supposed to be a quiet job. It was not quiet anymore. "There," she said, pausing the video. "That worker. He does not follow the normal pattern. He goes to sections he should not access. He stays longer than his shift requires." Her supervisor leaned in. "Could be innocent." "Could be," Minji agreed. "But 3 processing plants have had accidents in the last month. Equipment failures, contaminated mineral batches, system glitches. 1 accident is normal. 3 is a pattern. You think someone is sabotaging the operations? I think someone wants the Valorian integration to fail." Minji copied the footage to her tablet. "I need to investigate further." Over the next 2 weeks, Minji followed the suspicious worker. She tracked his movements, checked his communications, and watched who he met with. What she found made her blood run cold. The worker was part of a group receiving instructions from outside Earth. The orders were coming from Council operatives who wanted to prove that humans and Valorians could not coexist. If the integration failed, if the Valorians became a burden instead of a benefit, Earth might give up and return them to Council custody. The group's next target was the main mineral processing facility that supplied all the Valorian settlements. They planned to contaminate the entire supply, making the minerals toxic instead of nutritious. Thousands of Valorians would get sick. Many would die. Minji brought her evidence to her superiors. "We need to act now. They are planning the attack for tomorrow night." A special response team was assembled. Minji led them to the processing facility, arriving just as the saboteurs were breaking in. The confrontation was brief. The saboteurs had not expected to be caught. When they were arrested, Minji searched their equipment. She found detailed plans, communication logs, and payment records. Everything pointed back to the Council. The news of the attempted sabotage spread quickly. Instead of making people afraid, it made them angry. Humans did not like being manipulated. They especially did not like anyone trying to hurt the refugees they had voted to protect. Support for the Valorians actually increased. More volunteers showed up to help with construction. More scientists offered to work on integration projects. More families offered to host Valorian students and workers. "They tried to turn us against each other," one news commentator said. "Instead, they reminded us why we made this choice in the first place." In New Aurora, construction was ahead of schedule. The first buildings were taking shape, their designs unlike anything seen before. Human steel and concrete blended with Valorian crystalline structures, creating walls that glowed softly at night and regulated their own temperature. Yun and Nessa walked through the construction site together, watching workers from both species collaborate on the project. A human welder worked next to a Valorian crystal grower. A human architect consulted with a Valorian environmental designer. My father was an architect, Hyun said. He always told me that buildings are more than structures. They are statements about who we are and what we value. What does this building say? Nessa asked. Hyun looked up at the partially completed tower. It says we are stronger together. It says we can build something beautiful out of tragedy. It says home is not about where you come from, but about where you belong. Nessa's light pulsed warmly. Your father was wise. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. A team of human and Valorian researchers working together discovered that Valorian crystalline technology could be combined with human quantum computing. The result was processing power beyond anything either species had achieved alone. The new computers were faster, more efficient, and more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever seen. They solved complex problems in seconds that would have taken years before. Earth's technology sector exploded. Companies around the world wanted access to the new systems. Within weeks, Earth had developed technologies that made the Council's sanctions irrelevant. They did not need galactic trade anymore. They had something better. Ambassador Doyen watched the economic reports with satisfaction. We are not just surviving the sanctions, he told his staff. We are thriving despite them. But the Council was not happy about Earth's success. They had expected Earth to collapse under the pressure. They had expected humans to regret their choice and beg to return to the Council's good graces. Instead, Earth was becoming more powerful, more advanced, and more independent. And other species in the galaxy were starting to notice. Late one night, Doyen received an encrypted message. It came from a species on the edge of Council space, one that had voted against the Valorians. The message was simple. We have refugees too. Ones the Council rejected. Can Earth help them as well? Doyen stared at the message for a long time. Then he called an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. This changes everything, he said, showing them the message. We are not just helping the Valorians anymore. We are becoming something new, a refuge, a place where the rejected can find home. The Council will see this as a threat, someone warned. Let them, Doyen replied. We did not ask for this role. But if species are looking to us for help, if people are seeing Earth as a symbol of hope, then we have a responsibility to live up to that. In the Valorian settlements, life continued to improve. Children attended schools with human classmates. Workers collaborated on projects. Families celebrated holidays together, learning about each other's cultures and traditions. Kyle walked through a market where human and Valorian vendors sold goods side by side. He saw Valorian crystals being sold as jewelry. He saw human food being prepared with Valorian spices. He saw children of both species playing together, their laughter mixing in the air. He found Lisa helping a human child understand a math problem. She had become a teacher, sharing Valorian knowledge with human students. Are you happy? Kale asked her. Lisa looked up and smiled. Her light was bright and steady now, nothing like the dim flicker it had been on the dying ships. I am home, she said simply. For the first time since our world ended, I am home. That night, Kale sent a message to the few Valorians scattered across the galaxy, the ones who had been separated from the fleet or had tried to make it alone. The message was simple. Come to Earth. You are welcome here. Earth had made its choice, not just to help one group of refugees, but to become a place where anyone rejected by the galaxy could find acceptance. The consequences of that choice were still unfolding. But as Kale watched the lights of New Aurora glowing in the distance, mixing human and Valorian illumination into something entirely new, he knew they had made the right decision. The galaxy had rejected them, but humanity had welcomed them. And together, they were building something the galaxy had never seen before. The first new refugees arrived on a Tuesday. They were called the Kelon, small furry creatures with 6 legs and large eyes. The Council had rejected them because their planet's resources had been depleted by corporate mining operations. They had nowhere to go and no one to help them. Until they heard about Earth. Captain Jihu met their ships at the edge of the solar system. He had been promoted to commander of Earth's refugee fleet, a position that did not exist a year ago but was desperately needed now. Welcome, he transmitted to the Kelon vessels. Follow us home. 3 weeks later, another species arrived. Then another. Then 2 more at the same time. Each one had been rejected by the Council for different reasons. Too poor, too strange, too different, too expensive to help. The galaxy's unwanted were coming to Earth. Ambassador Doyen stood before the United Earth government and made a proposal that would change everything. We cannot help everyone as individual cases, he said. We need a formal system, a promise, a protocol. The government chamber was packed with representatives from every nation. They had been arguing for hours about resources and capacity and consequences, but Doyen's next words silenced them all. I propose the Refuge Protocol, a formal commitment that Earth will provide sanctuary to any sentient species rejected by the Galactic Council. We will not ask them to prove their worth. We will not demand they earn our compassion. We will simply say you are welcome here. We cannot save everyone, someone objected. We do not have infinite resources. No, Doyen agreed, but we have enough to help those we can reach. And every species we help makes us stronger. The Valorians gave us crystalline technology. The Kilon have expertise in environmental restoration. Each refugee group brings knowledge and skills we can learn from. The Council will see this as a declaration of war, another representative warned. Let them, Doyen said firmly. We are not attacking anyone. We are simply refusing to let politics determine who deserves to live. If that threatens the Council, then the Council is built on a foundation that deserves to fall. The vote was close, but the Refuge Protocol passed. Earth formally announced to the galaxy that it would serve as a sanctuary for rejected species. The Council's response was immediate and hostile. They assembled a military fleet and sent it toward Earth. The official statement called it a quarantine operation to contain what they called the contamination zone. But everyone knew what it really was. An attempt to force Earth back into line. Captain Jihu stood on the bridge of his flagship looking at the tactical display. 27 Council warships were approaching Earth. His defense fleet consisted of human vessels and several Valorian ships equipped with the new crystal technology. We are outnumbered, his tactical officer said. Quietly, we are, Jihu agreed. But we are not alone. He opened a communication channel to all the refugee settlements on Earth. This is Captain Jihu. We have hostile vessels approaching. I will not lie to you. This is dangerous. But we are not asking you to fight. We are asking you to stand with us, to show the galaxy that Earth means what it says. The response was overwhelming. Valorians, Kylon, and 3 other refugee species volunteered to help defend Earth. They offered their ships, their technology, their knowledge. Within hours, Jihu's small fleet had grown, but the real change came from somewhere unexpected. Kyle had been working on something in secret. He had been sending messages across the galaxy, telling the story of what Earth had done. He shared images of New Aurora, videos of humans and aliens working together, testimonies from refugees who had found home. He sent his messages everywhere, to species in the Council, to independent worlds, to anyone who would listen. He told them about humanity's choice to help instead of harm, to welcome instead of reject. Earth faced sanctions and threats, his message said. They lost trade and profit. But they gained something the Council has forgotten. They gained their souls. They remembered what it means to be civilized. The message spread. It reached worlds that had doubts about the Council's policies. It reached species that had their own rejected populations. It reached people who were tired of politics mattering more than compassion. And some of them decided to act. When the Council fleet reached the edge of Earth's solar system, they found something they did not expect. 17 other ships were there, from 9 different species. They were not military vessels. They were civilian ships, merchant vessels, even a few private yachts. They positioned themselves between the Council fleet and Earth. The Council commander opened a communication channel. Move aside. This does not concern you. A voice answered from one of the blocking ships. It was a member of a species that had voted against the Valorians in the original Council session. It concerns all of us. Earth chose compassion over convenience. They chose to help instead of hurt. If you attack them for that, you are attacking everything we claim to stand for. You are disobeying the Council, the commander said. The Council is disobeying basic decency, came the reply. We will not be part of this. The standoff lasted for 3 days. More ships arrived from other worlds. Some came to support Earth, a few came to support the Council, but most came just to watch to see what would happen. To witness this moment when the galaxy had to choose what it valued more, politics or principles. On the 4th day, Kale made a broadcast that reached every ship, every station, every world in the sector. His image appeared on screens across the galaxy. My name is Kale. I am a Valorian. 6 months ago, my people were dying. We had been rejected by everyone. We had lost hope. His light pulsed slowly as he spoke. Behind him, images showed the Valorian refugee ships dying in space. Then we met humans. They had nothing to gain from helping us. They had everything to lose. But they helped anyway. Not because it was profitable. Not because it was easy. But because it was right. The images changed, showing the journey to Earth, the landing, the settlement. They gave us home when we had none. They gave us hope when we had lost it. They shared their world with strangers who looked different, thought different, lived different. Now the images showed New Aurora, humans and Valorians working together. The Council calls Earth a contamination zone. I call it the only place in the galaxy that still remembers what it means to be civilized. The Council says we are a threat. I say we are the future. Kyle leaned forward, his light brightening. Every species you reject will remember. Every refugee you turn away will know. And they will all know there is one world that will welcome them. One world that chooses compassion. The broadcast ended. Silence filled the space between the fleets. Then, one by one, ships from the Council fleet began to power down their weapons. Not all of them, but enough. The species that had felt uncomfortable about the mission, the ones who had doubts about attacking a world for helping refugees, they withdrew. The Council commander sent one final message to Earth. This is not over. No, Ambassador Doyen replied. It is not. But you started this war, and we will finish it our way. With open arms instead of weapons. With welcome instead of walls. The Council fleet retreated. Earth had won. Not through violence, but through principle. In the months that followed, everything changed. 6 more refugee species arrived at Earth. New Aurora expanded into a major city. Human-alien hybrid technology advanced by decades. Earth's influence grew while the Council's authority crumbled. Some Council species, seeing Earth's success, began accepting their own refugees. Others left the Council entirely to join what was being called the Refuge Alliance, an informal network of worlds committed to helping instead of rejecting. 5 years later, Sumi Han stood at a podium in the center of New Aurora. She had been elected Secretary General of Earth specifically to manage the new reality humanity faced. Behind her, the city gleamed with the light of a dozen different species living in harmony. Today, she announced to the crowds and cameras, I formally sign the Refuge Protocol Charter. Earth commits to being a sanctuary for all sentient beings rejected by those who should know better. We will not apologize for choosing compassion. We will not regret standing up for what is right. In the crowd, Yuna and Jihu stood together. They had married 2 years ago, a simple ceremony attended by humans and aliens alike. Yuna was now director of interspecies integration. Jihu commanded Earth's largest fleet. Did you ever think it would turn out like this? Yuna asked. Jihu shook his head. When we left the Council station with those dying Valorian ships, I thought we would help one group of refugees and probably lose our jobs. I did not think we would change the galaxy. We did not change the galaxy, Yuna corrected. We reminded it of what it should have been all along. Nearby, Kyle watched the ceremony with Lisa beside him. She was grown now, a teacher at the University of New Aurora helping to train the next generation of engineers and scientists from a dozen different species. Are you happy? Lisa asked him. The same question he had asked her years ago. Kale looked around at the city they had built together, at the humans and aliens mixing freely, at children of different species playing together, at a world that had chosen to be better. I am home, he said, echoing her words from long ago, and so are thousands of others who had nowhere else to go. The ceremony continued, but Kale stepped away to a quiet observation deck. He looked